Oh, I have no idea what that sounded like out there in the world.
I think maybe you do.
Not good. Sure. Not good. I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, so your fault. There's a 600 millisecond delay between communication. Well, that was something. Welcome everybody.
After our conversation in the last one, I started going through all those shirts I was talking about. I'm just getting random shirts out that I haven't seen in a long time. This is a Rozfest.
Rozfest. We didn't play Rozfest. That was just
I was just going to say, did we play Rozfest or did I just have a shirt?
That was a free shirt from Glenn, who designed the shirt, I think, right?
You know, it's cooler than getting a free shirt for playing, getting a free shirt for not even playing.
Right, exactly.
You know what? Have you ever had one of those days when you realize you've had your shirt on backwards the whole day long? Yeah, that was my day. That was my day. Speaking of shirts, I was like, oh, oopsie.
I didn't even, Jen was wearing overalls today, so I didn't notice her shirt being on backwards.
Wow.
Too much information, Travis. Hey, Dave Martone is here.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, Dave.
Welcome, Dave. I was actually going to play 316 for real, and then I saw you did it, and I figure I would just play it as the intro music, for the when we were showing the logo. But yeah, man, interesting week, right? Not much to talk about, or is there?
Yeah, right.
I know. It's more.
So this is the only shirt I ever bought at a Van Halen show. I have been to a few Van Halen shows, but this is the one that I bought. And you were just talking about your shirt being on backwards. This one feels like it's on backwards because it's so old and stretched out that it's like, it gives you like that old man neck, It's like just a little too low, a little too Mick Jagger,
No, I'm
Trav has some
I don't know if I've ever worn.
Interesting bandwidth going on right now. Is that just me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You look a little grainy.
You look a little matrixy.
Oh, is that a good thing?
Well, in any case, we can see this shirt. It's a good one.
I'm wearing a shirt I might never have worn before. I just pulled it out of one of those bags I said where I have all the swag shirts from over the years.
I look fantastic to myself.
Huh.
Here, I'm going to close out some of these other things here.
That's not a response you want to hear. I look fantastic to me, and we're both like, huh.
Right.
Interesting.
Dave says Jen looks great. Yeah, Jen always looks great.
Right, I know. Yeah.
That's because Jen uses the old crappy camera so that she has that Liz Taylor haze going on all the time.
Well, diamonds are a girl's best friend. That's not the right. Those were those perfume commercials she did, right? Where she's like, what was the tagline?
Diamonds have always brought. What did Dale say? I remember it was like diamonds have always brought me something or whatever. Like,
right.
Diamonds have always brought me luck. That's what it was.
Is that what it is? That seems like a James Bond tagline of some kind.
Should I try and pull out of here for a second and then come right back just to see if it makes it better? Because I don't see it as a problem here, but I see it on the live feed.
Yeah, it's pretty. Hi, Dale.
Second time we've been left. It's like in Jurassic Park.
Right.
You left us.
Well, that was How are you?
I'm okay. This shirt's kind of hot because it's that brand new scratchy thing,
Is it tight? It doesn't look tight. I'm just asking.
No, it's just,
just
new.
How's this?
New from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, right. You look great.
That's better.
Great.
Very good.
All right. You know what it was?
Now I'm not. Now I'm the most
Right.
grainy. I was starting to feel kind of clear and hip there for a little while.
That was Eddie saying, "Don't ever try and play Running with the Devil
You're right.
with a 300 millisecond delay over Skype
Good point.
Agreed.
because it
We
won't
pretty much had
work."
it coming.
On my side, it literally sounded like a polka. Like Jen was on the upbeat, so it was like da da
Right.
da da. But okay, so how's everybody doing? Welcome. This is Outside the Inn. We are the Travis Larson Band. I did a radio show, I think, on Wednesday night that you can still go listen to a post of. And I'm just going to preface that by saying I knew when I was doing that radio show, because it was on like some kind of network news radio, that it was not for this audience. So I've got a lot of my personal being influenced by Eddie's stories tonight, and I'm sure we all do, and all that stuff. And so tonight will be a little less instructive, but if you go back and listen to that radio show, it was a good show. But if I sound like I'm talking to third graders trying to explain to them who and Eddie Van Halen is and the importance he had to the music industry, it's because I knew I wasn't talking to you guys, and I don't mean you guys TLB, but you guys out there. So tonight,
Sophisticated music listener.
yeah, just even anybody that literally, when I went on the show, the guy that was doing the interview said, "I know nothing about music, so see if you can explain to me and our audience what this is all about," because some people don't understand what a big deal it was and what a big deal Eddie was to the influence of guitar players like me and Dave and every guitar player I know pretty much that's picked up the instrument after 1978 or thereabouts. Unless you were like a straight up, completely snooty coffeehouse jazz guy and just didn't want anything to do with it, Eddie Van Halen was a huge influence. And even then, he's probably seeping in there somewhere. So,
you did a really good job in that interview. I wanted to say, I listened to that, and it's you conveyed what needed to be conveyed, like literally without even using the word tapping or tone or
right.
It really got across. I thought you did a really good job.
Well, he said to me twice behind the scenes during commercials, "Don't get too technical for people."
Yeah.
And so I was trying to just explain, sort of what the deal was. And, at the end of the day, it was just all about music. But the reason that we all look at Eddie and just bow our heads, because for somebody that didn't grow up in this generation, it's like Luke always says, there's a fetus in China on YouTube that can play, Eruption better than Eddie played it 30 years ago, right? It's like but that's not the point. The point is he invented so much stuff and was just like the coolest guy. So I thought, unless you guys specifically have something, there's something that I've been looking for a long time. And I've talked about this guitar. I talk about it a lot in this interview I did. And I've been all over the interwebs trying to find one of these, and you couldn't find one anywhere. And so my very first electric guitar I purchased from the Sears catalog. And a lot of people don't know this, but maybe you do now. But it looked like this. This is the guitar. That was the very first guitar I ever purchased.
Nice. Wow. Is that the black one that you put a handle in after?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there. Yep. But that is the guitar. So this guitar here is hung in the wall of Avalon Studios, which is our recording studio we built with Kip Stork, 20 years ago, and where we do all our albums. So that was my very, very first. I bought that for like $100, maybe. Might have been less.
Okay.
So that's not even a licensed thing. That's just close enough with
that's
all those.
Yeah.
That's just a kid that wanted to get a guitar like Eddie Van Halen, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
It's the Sears version of, wow.
Yeah, so this is actually what they call a court Strat, I think. But it's this is a court guitar, which was a really, really low end. It was the guitar they sold in the Sears catalog,
Right, was it actually Sears and Roebuck back then?
It was the Sears catalog that was like the size of a phone book.
Yeah.
But so I'll tell just, and you guys feel free to interject, but I was just going to kind of tell a bit of my very, very beginnings story, because a lot of people know a version of it, but
Hey, can I quickly interrupt? Somebody
yeah,
said,
absolutely.
that was my friend Dave Congleton's show. What I heard of it was great. You did a great job, Travis.
Oh,
Just
thanks.
wanted to throw
Awesome.
that out there. Sorry.
Right on. Yeah, I was, like I say, he was a really cool guy, but he literally said to me when we were going on, "Don't get too technical." And I knew absolutely nothing about music.
Yes, right.
So anyway, but I was going to say, so here's the deal. So I started out, my brother, my story is so stereotypical of guys like me and Dave Martone and so many other guys. It's like, it is just the all-American guy my age who plays guitar story because of Eddie Van Halen. Now, in all the press that you hear over the years, I always say Jeff Beck. And so I'm going to clarify a bunch of stuff. And I kind of steer around Eddie because it's such a cliche story that it's like too cliche, and the reason I kind of, the other day on the radio show that I did, I was kind of thinking, all these stories sound so cliche, and that's the reason for that is because that's how big he was. That's how big of a deal he was to everybody. And so everybody has the same story, and it's a cliche story.
Right.
But so here's the deal. My brother had a piano. He took piano lessons. They rented the piano, my parents did. And he kind of drifted away from those lessons, and the piano was still in the house. And I started sitting down at it and picking out like television themes and stuff. It was like the theme for MASH and stuff like that back then. And so my parents were like, "Oh, he should take piano lessons," and I saw Jeff Beck, and that was kind of the first guy I saw where I was like, I want to be that guy. So that's the thing of like, I saw that guy on TV back when MTV played music. And I was like, the sound was really cool to me and amazing and everything. But while that's going on, does anybody remember the movie? Night Shift, Michael Keaton's very first movie.
Sure. Me.
I'm an idea man, Chuck.
I'm an idea man, right?
Mayonnaise. We feed mayonnaise to the tuna.
Right. Call Starkist.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So I saw the movie Night Shift, and in Night Shift is "You Really Got Me" by Van Halen. In the party scene with all the frat boys, they're playing "You Really Got Me" by Van Halen, and this was like one of my favorite movies back then. Like Michael Keaton was on fire. He was hilarious. He was super high energy, and his favorite song in the movie was "Jumpin' Jack Flash." And he played that over and over and over again in the movie. Like every scene in the movie, they go to him and he's got a Walkman on and he's either singing Jumpin' Jack Flash or he's in his car and he's blasting Jumpin' Jack Flash. So there were two things in that movie. There was Jumpin' Jack Flash and there was "You Really Got Me," the Van Halen version. And so I said to my brother, like, what is this? Like, what are these things? Right. And so I got Jumpin' Jack Flash from, it was a Rolling Stones double live album called "Love You Live." And I got that. And that was like my first turn me on to the Rolling Stones and the Van Halen #1 album. So I got those at the same time, basically, because I heard those songs in that movie, which that movie is like 81, 82, something like that. So before that, I had seen Jeff Beck, and he was my first, like, I want to do what that guy does. And then I get turned on to these two other bands. So, when he gets the Van Halen album, I actually remember the very first day. It was a cassette tape, what we got from Boo Boo Records, where we've been shopping at Boo Boo Records is one of the last great record stores. It's in San Luis Obispo, California. We went shopping there a while back with Joe Travers, who's like a vinyl nut.
I got a Tubes record there.
Did you?
Just when we were there with Joe.
And Jen and I have played endless in stores there over the years. Like we've played several album kind of release in stores there. The band played there for one of our live DVD releases. A lot of people do, it's kind of a long history of great rock in stores at this record store. And so we have a long relationship with this place. But anyway, my brother buys me, that cassette. He's got like a red, I can't remember if it was a CG5 or a CG. No, is it CG? A Jeep. He had like a red Jeep back in the day. CJ7, I think, or CJ5. Anyway, I can't remember. And he had like these amplifier boosters in it because there was no roof to the Jeep. It was like, we always take it out onto the Pismo Dunes and 4x and, tipped it over and all that fun stuff. So Tommy says 1982. So that's when that movie came out. So this is like around when we're talking about 1982. So I was a little bit behind when the first Van Halen actually came out, but I got turned on to it in 1982. So my brother bought me this cassette. He puts it into the player. We're on what's the street that cuts over to Cal Poly from Los Valley Road? Foothill. Yeah, we're on Foothill Boulevard, and he blasts the shit out of the first Van Halen record, like to just blood curdling levels, because we're in this Jeep and he's got these, and the first song comes on and you're like, yeah, this is rocking, and that was Running with the Devil, and then Eruption comes on, and it's just the most stereotypical story of every guitar player of my generation. Eruption comes on, and I don't play guitar at this point, and I'm taking piano lessons. And I go, what is that? And he didn't really get what I meant by the question. You guys know my brother. So he turns around, he's like, it's Van Halen. It's that album you wanted. Like he's kind of, and I'm like, no, but I mean, I'm saying I don't understand what that is. Like, what is
right
that?
Now? What's happening?
Yeah, what is that? Like, for the very first time you're hearing, hearing that thing, and you're like, what is that? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And it's like, 2 minutes of that or whatever, however long Eruption is. And it's just nothing. There's just crazy, completely mind altering sounds. You're like, I don't understand what's happening right now. What is this? And then it goes into You Really Got Me, which is why I got the album in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, this is like the intro to You Really Got Me. Like, this is, kind of just, I've never heard anything like that. I have no idea what it is. I don't even really understand what the sounds are. I kind of get that it's guitar, but I don't understand what's happening. And so this is still a couple of years before I actually start playing guitar, but I play the crap out of that record. I play the crap out of the Rolling Stones. I start getting way into them, and I buy whatever the rest of the Van Halen records are available at that time, 1 and 2, obviously. And then, there was the one, like, it's funny because like I say, I've been kind of, I didn't really revisit Van Halen for a long time, especially just with all the stuff going on and, the turmoil within that band and stuff. I kind of like let it go for a while just because I didn't want to like taint it, I guess. So then Live Without a Net comes on HBO, which was like the 5150 concert, and the only concert they ever really put a DVD out or video out for anything before then. Like there was no, other than videos, there was no way to see them. And they put that out on HBO, and I recorded it on VHS. Remember VHS? Remember when we had video cassette recorders?
Like what you look like right now. Old shitty VHS. Maybe you ought to try to reconnect again.
Yeah, so I said, Travis, you're going low def again.
Can you guys still hear me though?
Yeah.
Can you still hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound fine.
All right. I'm trying to decide whether I unplug the camera or change cameras or something. But all right. Well, let me finish this part.
We're enjoying the VHS version of you right now.
Yeah, it's fine.
Do I look worse than Jen's camera?
You'll have to go tick, 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 like when the VHS has the little wrinkle on the edge and it goes tick, 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 through the VCR.
Right.
Adjust the tracking.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
have you tried turning to channel 3 And did you also adjust the tracking?
Right,
And you're like, is
exactly.
it channel 3 or 4? I can't remember.
That's
Right?
when Jen and I had to actually tell people over the phone when we worked at the video store. Remember that? People would call in, they would rent VCRs to take them home for the weekend. They'd
Yes.
rent it, and then you'd have to talk them through it because they wouldn't understand.
A place in time that was like, never was a generation so not equipped to plug in an appliance into their TV.
Right. Okay, so Greg says, "Fair warning." Yeah, that's the one that there's a lot of covers on that album, but some great stuff. So that Fair Warning was the 1980. So I got that one as well. And I was just like, like playing that stuff all the time. And then so the video or the concert, the first televised Van Halen concert comes out on HBO, and I record it on VHS tape. And
Sorry.
is it that bad?
No,
No,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
It's just sound drop for the VHS reference.
Right. I
Oh,
was
right,
doing
right,
some Foley for you.
I'm feeling
Sorry.
it.
Go ahead.
And if you went and found that, you'd find all the parts, because like you're saying, when you watch the parts over and over and over again and you pause them and you rewind them and stuff, so that would be the guitar solo, right?
Right.
Like the guitar solo of that VHS is just destroyed, and then I got the store-bought version when that came out, and that had all 90 minutes on it, whereas the HBO version was only 60 minutes. This is how much I remember all this stuff, right? Like, so anyway, so I'm playing with high school friends at this, or no, I'm not playing with any high school friends. I go to the Sears catalog and I see that guitar and I buy it. That's I'm jumping ahead. So,
Nice.
So that guitar that I just showed is the guitar I bought in the Sears catalog after I saw Eddie Van Halen, blowing my mind, and then being able to watch it a million times on TV. But Jen and I have talked about this before, being that there was no internet and I had nobody in my family that really was like, no musicians, I didn't even have an understanding of the whammy bar. I didn't understand like squealing dive bombs, pinch harmonics, any of that stuff at all. Didn't understand how it worked. Didn't know that you put distortion on a guitar, you overdrove it through an amplifier. So I have this guitar and I have this 1971 Mark IV Rhodes piano over here, I think is the year. And I was plugging that guitar into the Fender amp for this Rhodes piano, which of course is about as clean and as loud as it gets. Very unappealing for a kid that doesn't know anything about guitars. It was like, I've got a really loud acoustic guitar now,
Awesome.
with a bar on it that I don't understand what it does. Like I would watch Eddie do this stuff and I didn't understand anything. It sounded like he was like whistling to me when he would do those guitar things, those super high pitch, like, pew, dive bombs and stuff.
Yep.
And so I was like, right, exactly. So the only way I figured that out, I started plugging it into a tape recorder so I could record myself playing. And this is the very first day I have this guitar. Somewhere there is a cassette in this place of the very first day I ever picked up a guitar, and I plugged it in. Of course, I plugged it into a tape recorder because why wouldn't I immediately want to document this and record it? Because typical Travis Larson, right?
Don't miss this.
Don't miss this. This is going to be amazing. So I figured out what distortion was when I turned the record level up too loud on the VU meter. It was basically like a stereo, that you could plug a microphone into. And it fuzzed out and it was like, I was like, that's what it is. That's what distortion is. I get it. Like, that's how he's doing that. Not that I thought he was doing it with a tape recorder, but this is like how little I understood about guitar when I picked it up.
Right.
And so I'm sure there's a lot of guitar players from our generation that are kind of like that, but I never, ever had a guitar teacher. I never had somebody show me how it worked. I had my piano teacher. And my last piano lesson was, I went into him and I said, do you know what notes you're supposed to tune a guitar to? To my piano teacher. That was my last piano lesson.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
And he goes, yeah, I do. And I'm like, can I write those down? And then he kind of like, we kind of went over some of the stuff that we went over from last week. And then he kind of told my mom, I don't think there's anything more I can show him. And my mom to this day thinks he couldn't show you anything else. You were so good. You learned so much that there was nothing left for him to show you. I'm like, that's not really what it was, Mom. What it was he knew I was already barely paying attention and I was learning everything by ear. And then once I had a guitar, it was lost. It was lost cause,
Yeah.
So I love keyboards and I love still playing, but once I had a guitar in my hands and I understood that you could make it expressive and be able to bend notes and all that stuff. And there was so much more. I mean, again, piano is amazing, but to be able to make it sound bad as well as good, which means you can create more levels of emotion with a stringed instrument, it's like playing a saxophone or something where it's closer to a human voice. And you can do things that are just more expressive, and it's not as sterile and stuck to one thing. So I literally just figured it all out from scratch. And I think with Jen, she has similar stories with her. Like but you did take like one lesson, right?
Yeah, I did.
But we didn't really have
Halen though.
Well, it has to do with the fact that I started all that because I heard him, but I had no understanding of what he was doing. I didn't even understand how to get those sounds. I didn't even understand how a guitar worked, but I bought that guitar so that I could play like Eddie Van Halen.
Nice. Yes.
And, and then just from the ground up, like started figuring it out on my own. And so I think a lot of guys our age, I was starting to say a little bit ago, I think we all have kind of a kinship with him too. Right. Because he figured all that stuff out.
Right.
And even the generation, kind of the guys right after him, were still figuring a lot of stuff out, but he gave us a lot more difficult stuff to figure out.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely a pioneer. And just his, songwriting and playing was all, as many people would say, genius. So
yeah,
I think you said, it's been said, the Jimi Hendrix of our era, or our generation, I guess. So,
and almost, probably I think we did a Who's the Man once of Eddie or Jimmy, right? And I don't even know what you say about that.
That's
but what puts me a little bit at ease about talking about all this stuff is that every guy I hear, all the huge guys, like really, really big, well-known musicians say Jimmy and Eddie, for kind of like the two kings of the mountain of like changing the world. And so I don't feel like I'm, I don't feel like I'm in the wrong track when I say that, but that's totally what I think.
Yeah.
I feel like those are the two people about whom I always hear the two words changed everything and instantly. Like I hear those stories about Jimmy and I hear those stories about Van Halen where you heard it, and before the song was over, you knew everything was different.
Right. Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then being a kid that already played piano, when I really started trying to play guitar, Eddie was starting to play more piano. And so from that, that take also, I was coming from a kid that started out wanting to be like, Chick Corea and Herbie Hancock, but I certainly wasn't capable of that, so when you started hearing Eddie play all these piano songs that were great, you started having something that you could at least there was a chance you would be able to do this. You kind of listen to that and go, well, I can play that sort of like I could learn how to do that right now. And it was, so then it becomes more inspiring to a kid that's just starting,
what's funny about, I was just realizing this, so I got on board with Van Halen. It might have been that my point of entry was 1984, and then I loved it, and it was either Van Halen 1 or 1984, and I loved it, and I was really into it, and I would always hear people say, "Drum's such a great instrument, it must be so great to take out your aggressions," but I never really approached it that way. If I was feeling angry or off center, I wouldn't really play. I wouldn't play drums to bash, and I didn't really have the volume thing, even though I loved rock. And then I was backtracking, getting more Van Halen albums, and I got Fair Warning with Mean Streets, right? That I got the right album there.
Oh my God.
And that guitar intro, I just went, what is that? And I could not make it loud enough. It was just the most gratifying sound I'd ever heard. And I'd obviously heard, I'm a drummer though, so I'm not obsessing about tone. I just loved all these songs. But hearing that intro and just, I could not hear that song loud enough, and I couldn't play it hard enough. And it just couldn't satisfy that. It was a guitar player that made me want to play like that. It wasn't, hearing John Bonham or something like that. It was just, it's funny that's what did that to me as a drummer.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing about that. The riffs and stuff are all so cool. I mean, they're not completely out of your grasp, but that's because it was such such a swinging, grooving thing.
Yeah.
Even though they were like so pigeonholed as like this really heavy band, I remember like playing early stuff for my mom, and to mom, that's like heavy metal. Right. But there's such a difference. And I just noticed a comment talking about how Eddie was like the first guy, like you had all this heavy stuff back then, and Eddie was the guy that was actually happy.
Yeah.
Like that's what changed everything when I saw those guys, and they were like bouncing off the walls, and they were running around and like having such a party while they're performing, like they're having fun, and it wasn't brooding and like, I'm going to play the heaviest riff and be the angriest man. It was just like, I'm playing some pretty heavy shit, but I'm also having a great time, and I'm smiling, and there's chemistry. And that was,
you mentioned the swingy thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Some of those songs, Hot for Teachers one, obviously, but another one would be like Sinner Swing, where they're like, they swing and they're fast, and they're just big band arrangements. I remember because I would play in high school, jazz band, and there's you play it straight as a drummer, and then like in a bassy song or something, there's a big shout chorus where you go from being supportive to fill in anywhere and everywhere, and half of those things I was pulling out Alex Van Halen fills, obviously not on A Million Toms and stuff, but like that's where I was getting half my stuff, and the jazz instructor obviously thought they were appropriate. Like I was biting Alex Van Halen stuff, but he was playing big band stuff, so it was a weird through line for me.
Right.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's hear one, Dale. Come on. He's like,
they're not remarkable. They're just, it's okay. It's a good point, but it's the phrasing. It's like da 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 da, and then you're just filling up. And he would also set up, like instead of going, he would go, and so you basically plant a big one, and everybody knows where you are. But it's funny because that's necessary in a big band, because everybody needs to know where one is unequivocally so they can be tight. Right. In a 4-piece, you probably don't really need to do that, but you're borrowing from these bassy influences and stuff.
Yeah, and that's what leads to that feel totally all the way. That's awesome.
Here's a great quote from Mark. It says, "I heard a quote where Jimmy opened the door and Eddie painted it."
Yep.
That's
nice.
Great.
That is really good. Yeah.
One of the only times I seemed cool, I had joined a country band. I was still in high school, and I was just, soft-spoken, nice kid. And
did you say this is one of the only times you seemed cool?
I'm getting there. So I know not this. So I had gotten the gig, and I was driving to a practice and before one of our first gigs. And I just did that thing, like I just told you, how I can never hear this stuff loud enough. And I drove up in my car, not intending to do this, with my window down, blasting it. It's, it's dark out. It's rude to the neighbors. And I'm just, I left it cranked, and Center Swing is on. And right when I'm driving up, they're looking at, and they're kind of cocking their head, but they're smiling because like, it's Dale doing that. And it's that right in that, she looks so fucking good. And like, everybody just starts laughing.
You're Kevin Bacon in Footloose driving up in his Volkswagen Bug, right?
I'm playing loud, profane music. I'm like, oh, geez, sorry. But like, that was like probably way cooler than I really was.
Yeah, I was going to mention just on a side note, because Jen mentioned that the guitar that I got, which I'm kind of so stoked. I just found that picture. I'm saying so stoked I found that picture.
Yeah,
That is impressive.
have fun.
But that picture, so this is, this is a later thing. We'll get back to Van Halen, but so all this stuff is going on, and the 5150 tour and all this stuff, and then of course Dave goes off on his own and starts his own band. And so there was a point where I took that guitar and I cut a handhold in it with a jigsaw, and I started painting it in different colors and different weird stuff. And that was because, Steve Vai,
Like,
right?
Okay, yeah.
Like, so that's the version that's hanging in the wall at the studio, is this thing. You wouldn't even recognize it. And it's such a piece of crap. But I was asking for a guitar for a long time, and my parents got me one of the, you don't just go buy a guitar for your kid if you don't know what to do. So they got me like an acoustic guitar that was basically made out of cardboard. Like it was like a nylon string guitar. I'm sure kids know, it's almost a toy. Like it was like this, like fiber board, press board, and it had like a wood sticker laminate on the top, so it looked like a guitar if it was sitting in the corner of the room. But it was literally made of like you could take the wood from this thing and just you break it. Like it was, and
Wow.
you couldn't keep it in tune. Like it wasn't playable. You'd tune it. It wasn't like a nylon string that held its tune. It was basically a toy. So that was the guitar. And then that's why I ended up, when I saw that guitar in the Sears catalog, it was like that's the Van Halen guitar. That's the guitar. Of course, it's not even in the ballpark of the guitar. It's not even close. But at that time, it was. I literally thought that you took the whammy bar and you put it under the strings and pulled the strings up, like with the bar. Like I didn't understand, because I didn't have distortion yet, and I was like, if you put metal against the strings, you'd hear it kind of squeal, because it's like holding like a slide on it or something.
I thought it was just being stored there for you to grab and start.
Right, you stick it in, but I couldn't figure out how to get it under there, and I couldn't figure out like how do you make the squeals and stuff. Like I didn't understand any of that stuff.
What struck me? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then, like I say, the keyboards being mixed with that, then all of a sudden it was like you had a whole well-rounded hero. Not only did this guy play keyboards on stage, he played guitar on stage. And back then, when they started doing that stuff, he was playing full-on keyboard songs on stage. None of it was sequenced or pre-recorded like it became later. It was like, whatever the argument is between the Dave camp and Sammy camp, if you watch the 5150 show, that's an incredible 4-piece band with no pre-recorded help or samples or any of that stuff. The vocals are incredible. The harmonies are incredible. Dave, Sammy's playing some of the lead guitar parts, and Eddie's playing keyboards on songs where he has to. And, it was a really awesome band to be like watching as an example of this is what's possible in the commercial market back then,
One of the things I was noticing lately, just going through, pictures people post and stuff, is how much he's this transcendent player, and yet he's not super precious about his instrument. Like every picture has like it's leaning upside down against an amp, against the headstock, and it really, one of the things that's interesting about him obviously is that I built this thing from the inside out. I'm not freaked out about it falling or something.
Right. Yeah. He was a very physical player too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, coming from the Southern California and having the what was the radio station, Jen?
Which radio station?
Like the radio station.
Los Angeles?
Yeah, like the one that you used to listen to that I like. So, I mean, do you have a time where you kind of like it was on your radar, because you're not a guitar player? So, was there a time where Van Halen all of a sudden was like, what's this Van Halen all about? Because I know you were like Rush, it was Rush, but
I was definitely Rush to this day. That's hard for me to say, because I did not have access to MTV early on, and so until MTV, I wasn't super. Well, that's not true. I was aware of Van Halen, but I think the visuals were such a huge part of that band, just their stage presence and their antics and stuff. So yeah, as a guitar player, it's not like I heard Van Halen and was like, oh my God, what is this? Having said that, Michael Anthony, oh my God, he's one of my most favorite bass players. So, but it didn't like pull me in like that. But then when the visuals came in from MTV and the videos and stuff, I was like, holy hell, what is this band? Who is this band? So I think that played a big part for me. I mean, Fair Warning is just like one of my most favorite records ever, ever, ever. So right. It's just so like I don't know if visceral is the right word, but it's just so like meaty, Right. It's like you can put that record on, like they always say, and just you cannot listen to it loud enough. And it's like, yep. I will never not love that record. So, but again, I think for me to make that connection, it was a visual thing, weirdly. And maybe it was because I wasn't a guitar player, and the bass is amazing, but not like, whoa, what's that? That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's from your perspective, and you started in, when you started actually playing, when you start with Geddy Lee, right? It's kind of, you started from a different place, but the groove thing.
The groove. Oh my God. Yeah. Those guys are just so pockety. It's insane. I love it. When I play drums, actually, it's one of the first bands I play is Van Halen, because it's manageable and just so pockety. I love it. I love playing Van Halen tunes on drums and bass.
I feel like Alex Van Halen has this gift, which is he's so good and he just always sounds like he's having the most fun and he can just barely play what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But obviously, if you can play Hot for Teacher, then even as a young person, which I wouldn't expect this to get through to me, I was amazed how I'd hear Jamie's Crying and it just sounded like the most fun song to play. Mm-hmm. You would think that, and I remember going, you'd think he's that good, this would be boring and it would sound boring, but it doesn't. It sounds like he's having the time of his life. He never doesn't sound like it's bristling. And then the whole band's that way. The whole band just is electric at all times, whether it's simple or insane.
Yeah.
I see Gino on here, and he said that meeting Michael Anthony was awesome. And Michael Anthony, first of all, Michael Anthony and Jen are like exactly the same size. But Michael Anthony, I mean, everybody already knows this, but if there's ever a bigger rock star with no pretense, who's just super cool and easygoing and was like really, really like didn't make you feel intimidated at all. He's like, just a sweet guy. He grabs Jen. He's like, let's take a picture, doll.
Right.
Yeah. Like just a cool dude. Right. But I remember going back to other stories about Michael Anthony just being really cool. My high school bass player, Scott, before Jennifer, was at Disneyland, which everyone knows Michael Anthony used to own stock in Disneyland, and he spent a lot of time there. So he was down there with his parents, and Michael Anthony is sitting at one of those little food courts with his family at Disneyland. And, of course, that's not when you bother a guy. But even then, he was like so super cool. And like, he's there with his kid and his wife and stuff. And I have all this on video. That's why I know the story. I wasn't actually there, but of course, this makes it even more obnoxious. This is like late 80s, 1990-ish, something like that. And he gets his dad to video it. Like, for some reason, they had a video camera with him, I think just because they were at Disneyland, like, let's videotape it, And so he's like, here, videotape this. I'm going to go talk to Michael Anthony, right? Like, you couldn't be more obnoxious. Like, 18-year-old kid, I'm going to go talk to Michael Anthony while he's sitting at lunch with his family.
Yeah.
And he was super cool, and he like got up and shook his hand, and he was like, I'm a really big fan, and I'm a bass player, and blah blah blah. And that was at like the height of, we were going to Van Halen concerts back then. Like, it wasn't like he was off the radar. It was like, holy crap, there's Michael Anthony. So
Yeah.
just as far as him being like a super sweet and cool guy. And there's a lot of talk about the fact that they were probably going to do, that tour last year. Like, actually, it's been confirmed. I heard, was it Irving, their manager? I think I heard said that they actually confirmed that was being planned last year. They were going to they're going to bring Michael Anthony back, and they were going to do big arenas. So that's like, if there's any like really kind of bittersweet thing, it's the fact that they were making up with everybody, but they didn't have time to make that happen,
Yeah.
because that would have been nice. I mean, obviously those guys aren't 20 years old anymore, and it's a different show, but just on a level of people getting along. Whenever I hear about those stories, like when I heard Sammy had made up with Eddie, that really touched me. Like that meant a lot to me, because here Jen and I are still putting up with each other after 30 years. So when you look at these guys who get offered millions of dollars to be just, all you got to do is put up with each other a few hours a day. I think, like, come on, you guys can figure this out. You loved each other at one point in your lives. Right.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to hear that happened, even though it didn't turn into anything public that we would see. But
yes. Well,
I see.
It was, this week was a shocker, and I'm still reeling in it and not even sure how to pull out of it. But
yeah,
I'm just, I was just seeing, I was trying to filter through some comments here because I've been ignoring them completely.
Dale, were you going to say something?
If I was, I forgot. Thoughts have a very short half-life in my brain.
So should we move on to anything? Did you have any jokes of the week, or is it not that kind of week yet?
I don't think it's that kind of week.
Okay.
I have my shirt on backwards all day. I'm exhausted beyond belief. And the very obvious one was, yes, our loss this week was just, I don't know. I was pretty devastated. I'm still kind of like, what happened? I don't know. This whole year has just been like, everybody talks about it, but it's a rough one. It's very rough.
Plus, Jen works herself to death all day doing home improvements all the time. So
well,
by the end of the day, but it's not a good year. So I'll bring up something different just because.
Okay. Let's
move on a little bit. So here, actually, let's bring this up first, Jen. We keep getting asked about new merch and new T-shirts. And
yes.
stuff like
okay.
that.
Yes, I will talk about this.
So let me find that. But go ahead, and I'll see if I can find that link and get it dialed here.
So, we've been in this state of limbo for a while, as everybody knows. What week is this, Travis? Like 40?
28.
Oh, 28. Sure. Feels like 45, 28. Okay, so, and obviously TLB and all the other musicians aren't touring, and they're just sort of a little stuck and in limbo. And we'd been wanting to sort of offer something for merchandise, basically, and we finally caved to this print on demand concept, which has been sort of fairly popular and used often. Dale, you tell us about the drums. Music Motive uses these types of services and stuff.
Stephanie hipped me to this just because she's been, I think, considering doing it for Music Motive, and she's just one of those people who has an eye for what kind of shirt it is and whether it feels good and fits well, and just I think she's going to start maybe going this way. So I started hearing about that, and you may have already heard about it, but
Yeah. So if you don't understand the how it works with usual t-shirts, print screening, screen printing, sorry, long day. It's a process, where you're actually using ink in screens, and you basically have to do a minimum run for t-shirts, and you end up with a lot of inventory. And now there's a lot of progress with digital printing, where they can do one-offs. And so a band or business person does not have to carry the overhead, the inventory, and thus put out a lot of dough in overhead for these products. So we decided to kind of take the plunge in this on-demand printing thing, so that we won't have, gobs of inventory and this huge overhead for the screen printing process, which we're used to doing. And we're offering our quarantine t-shirts for print on demand.
Yay!
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry, that was a very long-winded.
So you too can have an
tired.
official.
Sorry.
You can have an official Outside the Inn T-shirt,
Nice.
and there's also buttons and stickers on this site. I'm going to post the link right now, and then at the end of the chat, I'll put it into the description. I haven't actually done that yet, but I just posted the feed or the link to this page just now in the chat right there. Oh, it said.
Well, what's cool about this service too is that the consumer can choose the garment that they wish. If you want a short sleeve, a long sleeve, a hoodie, I don't know. Whereas if we were to try and print all of those things on our own, the inventory would be ridiculous. You have to carry however many of each size and however many garments. It gets so out of control when, you're just a little guy trying to do this thing. So you can choose here, Trav, see if you can go to the t-shirt and show it like on I don't know, something else. Yeah. What else you got?
Let's see. How about we go there? Let's go back to, because there's also women's, which is rare. I know there's actually some women.
Too. That's a whole other thing with the screen printing process to order women's. And there's all kinds of minimums you have to do. It's a really intense sort of process. So we're going for this on-demand thing for this quarantine situation.
Nice. Yeah, and that way we won't have closets full of size small men's.
I know. We have, we have like 400 smalls of everything.
I'm really digging the pullover hoodies, actually.
Oh, nice.
Like that's I'm excited about these because I wear those all the time. Or they got zip ups too.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that'll be a fun one. And so the plan is, I think Jen's going to expand on these because there's been a lot of asking about doing the Morse circle logo on, because those are out of print. So let's see if I can get back to, I'll show you, like we did some buttons because we've never had buttons.
Travis was like, oh man, I want a button. And so if Travis wanted one, I was like, all right, well, stick it up there. So anyways, a few little goofy things. And it's just right now, again, with this weird world, it seems like an approach to dealing with not having to shell out,
thousands of dollars for pre-pressing
for t-shirts that are just going to sit in inventory because we're not touring. We're just not touring right now. And so, there's a lot of options. Tommy just says there's a shitload of options, and it's true. There you can get baseball jerseys and all kinds of stuff. And I was a little conflicted about this because I really like to have a certain amount of control over the quality, the process. Every time we do shirts, I go down to the printers, I check the colors, I make sure all the screens are lined up. I do a lot of just making sure everything's cool. And this is a little different. So I had to let go a little bit, but I think it's a cool sort of memento for this period in our lives and our touring career, because it is what it is. And,
it's the first time in history I was going to say this is the first time in history we've actually had women's shirts in different styles, deep V-necks and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. It seems like an appropriate option for these exact times where,
I think so.
who has the
And
money to outlay, but people
Yeah.
can still get what they want. And I also feel like seems like the way things are going in some sense.
Perhaps. I mean, I think I'm so old school. I'll always appreciate the screen print process. It's
Sure.
such an art, and you go in there and you see those machines and you see those artists, and you actually choose the PMS colors and say,
Yeah.
yes, I want that version, that color. I have a color wheel. I do the whole thing, and to let go of that and go, okay, this is all digital now. I'm handing it over and on demand. It's weird, but it is what it is. And we got some samples and they're cool. Travis was like, yeah, these are cool. I'm like, okay, they're cool. So at the end of the day, they're cool. I let it go. You know what I mean?
Holly says, totally getting a women's V-neck right now. Yes.
Nice.
Yay, Holly.
I know. I was even like, oh my gosh, I could get my own t-shirt, and it's so anyways. Anyways, that's the deal. Enjoy the outside the in, one of a kind
Yay.
of the times offering.
And
It
we'll
is
do
sort of like
more.
this is what we did this.
We'll do
And
more
yes, there will be
official
more
posting of the link.
designs into the future. Maybe a Jennifer Young, Dale, maybe individual t-shirts. I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. That's right. Yeah. Can I get a Jennifer Young shirt? Larry will get one.
Yeah, right.
Or he doesn't need one. He's already.
Larry made his
Yeah.
own. Yeah, the reference there for people that don't know is Larry showed up to our show in Alabama with a Jennifer Young fan shirt on. Like he made his own shirts. And then got up with us. He didn't wear it until the end of the night when he got up for the encore jamming with us. And then he had that shirt on. Everybody's like, what the hell? So yeah, that was hilarious. So
reminding me of the time Vinny Moore gave feedback about the album and said, so great. Yay, Jennifer. Yay, bass. Boo drums, boo guitar. Yay, bass. So Trav and I are used to it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
Literally. So I told the story recently about the Vinnie Moore thing, and he never played on the song Nevermore, which is why it's called Nevermore, but that was supposed to have Vinnie on it. And so then I said, Vinnie, can you give us a quote for the band? And he was like, Jennifer Young, good. Everybody else bad. Jennifer Young rocks. Trav and Dale, not good. It was just like ridiculous.
He's such a little shit. Oh my god.
Yep.
So that's that'll be on the website eventually. I'm still checking that link, Jen, and it's still kind of weird, but we were just messing with it.
For me, I don't know what to tell you. It works in both of my browsers and on my phone.
If you go to, depending on where you're seeing this, the link for this new merch page, which is not the official merch page that you'll find when you just look up the merch page on the website, but if you look on the home page on the lower right hand corner, it says TP Fund, which used to be our tip jar, and if it still says TP Fund, it now goes to this page.
Well, in all of my browsers, it has the proper. I don't know. Hey Dale, bring up our website on your phone. Can you do that?
I should be able to.
Are we gonna do some technical testing while
There's
we're
an
on?
RV right
It'd be embarrassing if I can't.
now. Been arguing with me since like 2:00 this afternoon that the link wasn't up, and I'm like, I don't know. I checked it on everything I own, and it works.
Holly says, and the Moore Circle sticker. Yes, I was excited about the stickers. And Holly will probably do a shirt down the road. We're just we're going to slowly unleash stuff on that page as it gets designed. So,
All right. So what am I doing here?
Right hand corner.
lower right-hand corner where it says, does it say TP Fund or does it say
Outside the.
Let's see.
Is it a picture of us or TP Fund?
I see the outside the in live stream. Hold on. Is this
No,
what
he's
I'm
talking-
supposed to be?
No, he's talking about the Twitter, Jen.
No,
Yeah.
that's it. That
Yeah, it's
picture right
working.
there.
It's
Right
working.
hand side. It's
None of my
working.
stuff's working. I don't know why.
Sorry,
Must
that's
be
probably
why
way
I'm
too
fuzzy.
much of a close up for people. And
And now this is as realistic as it gets of just TLB interacting.
Yeah, exactly.
There's absolutely no show or pretense at this point. We're just arguing over whose computer is working and who can see what.
I told you, I put it up. What do you want?
Okay,
Welcome
so
to
here's
the van, as we say.
here's something else I was going to talk about. Let me go find this. So anyone that was looking at my Facebook this last week, let me see if I can find this first. Hang on.
Gino says we've gone from the van to the hotel. That's exactly right, Gino.
There you go.
Yes. Welcome to the hotel.
Jesus. This is what I think it is.
Yeah. So everybody saw this pop up. Here, let me get this going. Okay. So this video gets released this week by this band called Mr. Bungle, and who, to me was this band that some guys from Mr. Bungle, and I don't know nearly enough about it, not as much as Dale, of course, because apparently he knows these guys enough to where he was in the video, and I had no knowledge of any of this happening. And
I only knew. I started getting some messages saying, "Hey, you're in the Mr. Bungle video," and so I had to go find it. And basically, if you're not familiar with Mr. Bungle, it's a some people will be and some people won't be. It's I don't know how you even characterize it. It's sort of a bizarre but genius kind of. It's not derivative of Zappa, but it's like that in how weird it is, but how great the music is. And
let me interrupt real quick, Dale, just because so people have an explanation. So this picture was in that video, and this is Dale. Yeah. But I'm just saying that, like, why I brought it up. So this I posted this on my Facebook. This is a screenshot from the Mr. Bungle video that they posted about a week ago. And that's Dale when he was like, I don't know how old. He's little, but it's Dale. It's very obviously Dale. You can tell by the posture. So continue, Dale. Sorry.
So these are guys I went to high school with. Mr. Bungle is the band I was just describing. Mike Patton, people know from Faith No More, and it's I don't usually. I went to high school with those guys, but I didn't play in that band ever. But I played with Trey and Trevor, and so basically, Mr. Bungle. It seems like they're doing a live concert for Halloween, and they're basing it on like the night they came home. Like a
streaming thing, right?
Yeah. So basically, there's a lot of sort of Eureka references in there. So cut into the very end of the video, there's just subliminal flashes, and so people started saying, "Hey, there's the flash of there's like a frame of you in the Mr. Bungle video." So I went and looked for it, and yeah, there's that picture of. I'm almost sure that is me at a jazz trio that I was doing with Trey, the Mr. Bungle guitar player, and a bass player named Dan Winger. It was fun to see those. I mean I admire and respect and like those guys, but I'm not in touch. So it was fun to see these things pop up of these memories of gigs from way back in the day. And I think there's some sort of just shout outs to some of the high school musicians. There's some shots of jazz band, and just a lot of people that I knew, and somebody saw fit to say, well, throw a picture of Dale in there. So that was pretty fun.
So how old were you in that picture?
I'm going to say 16.
Nice.
It's a nice. That's
so
epic.
Cool. Oh my gosh.
What I don't know why, but I always notice how I look allergic. Even back then, my eyes are all like hay feverish, which in Humboldt people just take as being stoned.
Yeah, but you were just hay feverish.
But
awesome.
Yeah, so that was fun. I don't know how much else to say. Some of those stories I told about doing about traveling and doing like all-state jazz bands and stuff like that involved Trey. So he's probably the one that I knew the most, and I always liked him. And he was, even back then, it seems silly to throw around the word genius, but he always struck me as a musical genius, back then. Like some of the stuff Dan and Trey would play like a Charlie Parker song in in a fugue form where somebody would go, and then the next person would start, and they're just like, you're focusing through the chord changes. And I'm just going, these guys are maniacs.
Right?
So,
Oh my God.
So for people that don't know, like me, is it just Mike Patton that ended up in Faith No More, or is there multiple members of Mr. Bungle that were in that band, or no?
No, I think Mike was playing. He started playing with Faith No More. There was that huge song Epic
Right.
shortly after. It seems like in my mind it wasn't that long after we all graduated. And
for those that don't remember,
I don't want to be.
I was just going to say it's the big MTV
this.
hit. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I don't want to be wrong about this, but if I remember right, he's wearing a Mr. Bungle shirt in that video. I could be wrong.
I think that sounds right.
And
I was going to say, for those that don't know, it's the song back in the early 90s. It was a huge MTV hit. They played at the Video Music Awards, and it went, "You want it all, but you can't have it." It was that song. So anybody that doesn't remember.
Those guys were great. I mean, they're all so talented, and there was just that combination of talent and don't give a fuck at the same time that I always admired, because I was always working on being better, but I was more self-conscious, and like these guys do not give, so that's pretty impressive. They have such cred that way, and they're still doing it, and Faith No More. I don't want to speak.
How different from Faith? How different musically is that band from Faith No More? Is it like just kind of a heavy punkish?
It's like
a thrash metal band, or is it kind of just a weird hybrid? Or because I don't know Mr. Bungle music like you do.
I admire them in the way I admire Mike Keneally. And I don't feel like
is it that out there? Like kind of Zappa-esque?
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. Like I said, I don't want to speak too much to it because I haven't really kept up with them that much over the years. But
have they done much since then? I mean, I don't know. I think this is a reunion for a reason, so I don't know if you had to have kept up with them.
I hear about them, and I'll be aware of things that filter my way, but I'm just crappy at keeping up with things and people, and I just haven't followed things.
But stylistically, if it was 1989 or 90, what would I be listening to? Like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Gino says circus metal jazz polka.
Thank you, Gino.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good synopsis. I've had one or two of my drum students learn a song or two. So you'll have like super heavy sections, and then calliope music, and then but you the whole time you're listening to it going, holy crap, this is amazing. Right. You're not. Do you know who John Zorn is?
No.
He's the first person I heard where the way I heard it, it was the point of it was you'd be listening to something and it'd be a bossa nova, and then with no fill and no build up, there would just be a screaming punk or metal thing happening, and then it would turn into like loungy stuff, and then it was just the hardest shifting stuff you can imagine. And now that I'm saying that, I realized I'm pretty sure he was involved in the first album back then. So it was a perfect marriage.
Sam says thrash, avant-garde, funk metal.
Okay.
So we got Gino, circus metal, jazz, polka, thrash, avant-garde, funk metal.
I was kind of hearing that. I just didn't, but I really don't know. So that's why I was asking.
Well, Wayne says, the only reason I'm being circumspect about it is because I feel awkward if I say something wrong, since I do like those guys, but I haven't kept up as much as I should. But but we're just talking about
what you knew and what I would have known, which is, I mean, it's so this is the era I know, which is what Wayne mentioned. This brought back the only memory that I have other than Mike Patton, the poor goldfish at the end of the video.
Oh, right.
Now, it was my understanding that no goldfish were injured in the making of that video, but
I see Carnival Rock. But anyway, it was touching to see that picture, and it just felt like it was really cool to just think back at those. We were just talking about earliest gigs, you know what I mean? That was like we were playing outside of a deli on the marina doing like straight ahead jazz. I have like a Tama rock drum set, like the most inappropriate instrument for that.
Right.
But we're in high school. You do what you can.
What's so great about that picture, though, that the thing that immediately says you to me is the posture.
Yeah.
Like Dale has the best posture of any drummer I've ever played with. And in that picture, he's just like this kid sitting straight up, like just excellent posture. Like you're never going to have Phil Collins problems, knock on wood, because
that picture looks like I can play, like I'm holding my stick traditional grip, but I probably didn't usually do that, but it looks cool to me because it looks like a Tony Williams picture or something. Yeah. I'm better off that. What's that?
Holly says, sure, they put it back in the water. Sorry, I'm back to the fish.
Oh, yeah. Right.
What do you call a fish with no eye?
That was like
so
that Gary Goldman joke where he talks about contractions. He says like, clock used to be of the clock. I can do that without the
Right.
So Dale brought up a thing the other day when we were talking about all this Van Halen stuff, and basically, like, I think the gist was that Dale, like, who's in that category, right? Like, and of an Eddie Van Halen who basically changed the landscape of his given medium, right? So you got like Jimi Hendrix and an Eddie Van Halen, but like are there guys that are that influential in other landscapes that are that big in the world as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like say, I mean, I guess it could be like obviously another instrument, but it could be an actor or somebody like that, somebody with a medium that has changed the world. Because people that don't know music, when I was on this show the other day, they were literally, it was like my job was basically to come on as a guy who loves what the guy did, and it was completely influenced by it, to explain to people the importance of why the whole world is posting pictures of Eddie Van Halen and, like moved by the fact that he's gone. So who has really changed the game like that? Like, Tom says Frampton. Frampton was really, really huge, but I'm not sure he was a game changer. He was just so huge. Like he was huge in that
any medium. I mean, you could rattle off all kinds of, like, Albert Einstein, or art in all sorts of forms, including science, right?
Right.
So game changers, my goodness.
Isaac Newton.
I don't know.
Now we're getting to how nerdy this band is. Now we're getting down to it.
I know nothing about architecture, but one of the names that popped up is Frank Lloyd Wright in that conversation. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just.
And I mean, gosh, I'd have to think about it a little more. The thinky, like, but
let me ask you guys this: is Chuck Berry in this category? Even though,
yes.
Okay, yeah,
yes.
It's interesting because the thing about
Tesla.
him is,
Holly said Tesla. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah. You know what? Here's Trav just gave away how nerdy I am. But you know what's so badass about Tesla? Comes to this country, and like. First of all, you're trying to convince the world to take your idea, not Thomas Edison, right?
Right.
And your success depends on you patenting your idea. I couldn't patent a thing I don't know, I wouldn't even know how to start. This guy comes non-native to the country, changes the whole thing, and deals with bureaucracy.
Right.
Unbelievable.
I know. Unbelievable.
So
what you're I mean, I don't know. We don't need to get into comparisons, but Game Changers. Yeah.
Well-
I mean, I
well-
suppose Eddie is to guitar what maybe, some of those other cats were to electricity and things of that
That's
nature.
true. David says Les Paul, obviously, yes. Because without
True.
Les Paul, there would be no Eddie. And, it's interesting because, again, dealing with a different kind of audience, people that don't know about this stuff, anything more than, say, our parents would know from watching Sonny and Cher or something. They're people that don't really know what goes on behind the scenes of an industry like the music industry. But do you have a bird? What was that?
Sorry. I'm having a toast right now to Mr.
Wero.
Manny.
So Les Paul. Oh yeah, somebody asked earlier what's in the cups.
I'm embarrassed to say it's literally a light version of a gluten-free beer. It's Omission Light.
Not that
I'm
there's anything wrong with that.
little bit of
Yeah.
Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select.
Wow.
And what
Why
were you
did I even
drinking
say
again,
anything?
Dale?
What?
What were
Yeah.
you drinking again?
I'm actually
A gluten-free light beer.
a gluten-free light beer. I
I've
asked,
got water because that's how I roll. But
I was talking about how Eddie changed everything, and I was asked who did that for drums, and it was an interesting thing. It's funny how I didn't have things to say right away. And I'm going to start with Gene Krupa. But the thing is, he didn't change. Well,
What
that's
about
tough
Buddy
one.
Rich?
I feel like yes and no. Like he, in my impression, I wasn't, coming of age back then, but it's not that you didn't know what he was doing. He just did it better than everybody, and faster and smoother. So it wasn't quite, I'm not sure if it was game changing. It was just done at a different level.
What about
I don't want to sound like I'm critiquing Buddy Rich, but you know what I'm saying. I will say maybe you asked me who's the man a while back, and one of them was Billy Cobham.
that's what I was trying to come up with. I'm
Was
like,
it? I've thought about that since
I was gonna
then.
go
I've
Sorry.
thought about that since then, and it's funny. I wasn't thinking in the moment of just how
Right.
he really did change things, just both in three different ways. He would play open-handed, and he would play double bass in fusion and all those time signatures and stuff. All of that, I think he changed a lot of games. It's interesting to me too to see if I go back through Billy Cobham memory lane, how much Simon Phillips. He just doesn't remind me of him all the time, but they're so like they're similar.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I guess Bonham, but it's not like he did do a couple things different than other people. Again, he's just one of those guys with such a deep groove. I'm hesitant to say he changed everything, but he did, because here's the weird thing that I'll use. If you could survey music through time, right? If you could just travel through time and go, here's rock music, here's rock music, here's rock music, then you would, it's not that everybody would play different, but if you got up to the date that Eruption was released, you would instantly know something happened, right? Like here's leading up to that, here's leading up, and nobody tells you about Eruption, but then you get to the year after that and you're like, what something happened right in here. And I feel like yes, maybe everybody's not doing it, but something happened. And I feel like you would be able to detect that from Bonham. Okay. Obviously, I just realized I skipped over the Beatles on Sullivan. I guess that I'm not so much a Beatles cat.
That was mentioned a little bit ago, and that's
okay.
I was going to get to that and a few others. But yeah, obviously the Beatles is a huge game changer for an entire generation. I mean, for every generation, honestly.
And I'm seeing Neil Peart, and I agree with that. And I'm also
here's what I'm saying, though. I want to just sneak in here. Tommy says Jen is the only man in the band.
Could be.
She's the man.
Who's the man?
You're the man.
Jen's the man.
Are there bass players that spring to your mind?
I was just thinking about that, and this is going to be super odd, but one bass player I think is really, it's like, whoa, what just happened? Is Charles Mingus. That's one player where you're just like, what the hell just happened? I've never heard anything like that before. I mean, especially back for, when you're talking about that timeline, when you're hearing the thing and then you like trip and go, what? So him for me was a big, I don't know. I think he was a game changer in a way. And of course there's all the obvious ones, yes, the rock players of, Jocko, everybody would say, I know he's not a rock player, but is a game changer. And then, there's just
it's all about what the level you're talking about. Cause I saw people mention Getty and stuff too, but when you're talking a game changer, generations, like, Rush would tell you Cream was the game changer.
Sure. Yep.
You know what I mean? So when you're talking about, there's lots of people with huge, huge influence. I mean, obviously Getty changed a whole generation of bass players, but did he change and
I think I don't mean to interrupt you. Stanley Clarke, I think, was a big one too, because he just implemented so many techniques early on that a lot of, bass players weren't using back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just my impression. I don't know.
Did
kind of the first. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Did we already say Jocko?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. But
and Jamerson, yes. Gino, yes. Jamerson, of course. Like total. Oh my God. Just, yeah. So those are like the pioneer game changer guys, where there was a thing and then there was that bump.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, something happened. Yeah.
Chuck says Bob Dylan, which is interesting because I watched that Bob Dylan documentary a while back. And, when we were coming up, I'm just telling the truth and people of our generation kind of know, but it was past Bob Dylan's main influence. And it was when Bob was maybe not what, for a while there, Bob was a little bit off the rails, I guess is the way to put it. And so when I saw Bob Dylan, he was like kind of messed up and this was like, late 80s, early 90s when you started seeing him, where it was like, what's going on with this guy? But I didn't really understand it either, because I didn't come up in the generation where I know the influence of his songwriting was such a huge deal. And then I just saw that documentary a while back, and he's totally lucid and sharp in the documentary, gives the longest and most detailed interview I've ever seen him give in his entire career, talking about his whole life, talking about why he did certain things he did, why he did certain things he did just to like get a rise out of people, and to really understand what he meant to a generation of people that came out of folk music, and they were all listening to, that was like the era of, the Kingston Trio and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it's, Bob Dylan, and then Bob Dylan gets all these kind of folk people to follow him. And then he goes electric, and how much of a shock that was to those people, and many of them were so purist, they were angry at him, but then it kind of ushers them into the rock and roll world a bit. And so that was a pretty interesting story that, I kind of knew it from a distance, but I never really dug into the details of it. And I love that stuff. I'm all about, musical history, and I get into all that stuff. Sam says Brian Wilson, speaking of musical history.
Saw that.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up if you didn't.
Yep.
Yeah. Brian Wilson.
Without which there's no Sgt. Pepper's, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen the Brian Wilson movie? I think it's on Netflix, or it was. Is it John Cusack plays him? I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Love and Mercy.
I don't think I did. I remember. There's so many movies that've gotten by me. That's one that I wanted to see and haven't.
That's really great because he's involved with it, him and his wife, Brian Wilson. So it's not, it's not a bullshit movie. He actually has something to do with it, and it's not about necessarily him just being this amazing legend. It's actually about his struggles and the stuff that the legendary stuff, right? Like him being in bed and all that, and what that was all about. Mm-hmm. But it's really good. John Cusack, not the most obvious guy to play Brian Wilson, but he did such an amazing job.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant
as a character. Yeah. like, you don't, obviously he doesn't really look like him, but the way he played it and the fact that Brian Wilson was involved with the movie, it's like, and the little sense of humor stuff that Brian Wilson has. Like, there was this story about him getting in, sorry, my screen was about to shut off. There's a story, just his quirks of being so insecure and stuff. He gets into the car with a guy who's interviewing him, I think for Rolling Stone. And he's like, he's like, so is this car car okay? Yeah, it's fine, Brian. How's the mechanics on the car? It's fine, Brian. Does the car have gas? It's got plenty of gas, Brian. Are you sure? It's got gas. It's got enough gas to get where we're going. It's got plenty of gas, Brian. And then Brian says, well, what are you worried about then? Like that's like a classic Brian Wilson sense of humor, right? Well, what are you worried about then? After he just goes on like and on and on and on, like he's so wrapped up with anxiety,
That sounds like a Travis Larson sense of humor in a way.
Well,
right?
I must be a genius.
You must be.
But that's like such from what I see of Brian Wilson, like his actual personality. Dick Dale was a great game changer, Gino says. Just ask him. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, he brought about speaking about yourself in third person.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, quite honestly, when you think about that, well, maybe not game changer. It's just a style of music, yeah.
No, I do. I was just being smart.
Yeah. No, I know. He was good at.
When I started reading that comment, by the way, I didn't read it to the end before I read it. So we'll put that little smart ass remark on Gino. All right, kids. Well,
okay, it's time. It's time.
Thank you, Eddie Van Halen, for everything you gave to the world. And yes. Without Eddie Van Halen, I would not be sitting here talking to these people. I would never have started playing music with Jen in the first place. I wouldn't have played music with a lot of people. Jen and I used to play a lot of Van Halen songs back in the old days when we did covers.
I used to sing the background vocals for Ain't Talking About Love.
Yeah. Jen had to do the Michael Anthony parts.
That was one of the first songs we jammed on as a band before there were TLB songs fully fleshed out enough. That's an interesting story we didn't bother to tell.
We actually played Ain't Talking About Love at the Frog and Peach pub with Dave Martone, too, when he was here.
Also true.
But yeah, we did that. I actually pre-Jen, I played a lot of Van Halen. Like I played, probably the first couple of records and then most of the 5150 record and like all that stuff. So even though my guitar wouldn't stay in tune like until much later when I got a good guitar. So, but so that was that was a pretty amazing input into the world, and we can only hope that we can even like have a little snippet dent of an input to the level of somebody like that, but it's ripples. And the interesting thing about that is, can you imagine the music business and every single person we know and everyone that we're friends with without Eddie Van Halen?
Nope.
Like not one person. Like I would not be here. I wouldn't have met you. We wouldn't be playing music together. Every guitar player I know pretty much would not be playing music in the same way or at all, which means they would be in some different position in life doing something else. Who knows what music itself would be like?
I wouldn't have spent my first 2 years playing country songs and people tell me to keep my hi-hats closed tighter.
Yeah. There probably wouldn't even be a Guthrie or, there's like so many people we know that there wouldn't be them as we know them because of Eddie Van Halen. So pretty amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you.
All right. I don't have anything planned on the way out.
I know. I'm going to do the same thing again.
Let me mention, we do have all the support links in the comments here. And as soon as I get off here, I'm going to put in the link. I didn't have time beforehand, but I'll put in the link that I posted of the new page with the new shirts. And then we'll also put up a separate post of, all that stuff on Facebook and the www is all that stuff.
Go, Dale.
What are we doing? I don't know that one.
That's not fair. I'm supposed to do this.
I know, there's no friggin' bass, so like I don't even know when.
I know. And you can't hear it.
Bye.